Hi, everyone. We hope you guys are having a spectacular day out there. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is Mr. Tiska with you once again. And once again, I'm joined by the always ready Mrs. Kraft.
How are you today, Mr. Tiska? Are you ready for this?
I am so ready. I feel like SpongeBob. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. We also have Miss Hoff with us. Miss Hoff, how are you?
I'm ready.
Perfect. So today we're going to start Chapter 5, Section 1, the Articles of Confederation. The big idea for today is that the Articles of Confederation provided a framework for a national government.
And the main ideas that we're going to talk about are the American people examined many ideas about government. The Articles of Confederation laid the base for the first national government of the United States. And the Confederation Congress established the Northwest Territory. Main idea 1, the American people examined many ideas about government.
So the last time we were together, America had declared its independence. We fought a revolution to make sure it stuck, and we are now our own country. Oh boy, what are we going to do now? Well, we better figure out how to make our own government, and we better do it pretty quick because guess what? We are our own country. So we start to look at different influences on the government and what we want our government to be like. So one of the things that they looked at was the Magna Carta. And the Magna Carta simply said that everybody has to follow the rule of law. Whether you're the king, whether you're the president, doesn't matter who you are, everybody's got to follow that law. They also took into consideration the English Bill of Rights. Now, according to the English Bill of Rights, Parliament makes the laws. So we want to have a government where our version of Parliament, which is Congress, would make the laws. They also turned to some Enlightenment thinkers. Now, remember, we talked about the Enlightenment in the previous screencasts, where suddenly people were thinking for themselves. And one of the most famous of the Enlightenment thinkers was a man named John Locke. And his thought was that people have certain rights and it's up to the ruler to protect these rights. And clearly, if your ruler doesn't, then you need to replace your ruler. The other Enlightenment thinker at the time was a guy named Montesquieu. Such a cool name. Anyway, Montesquieu believed in the separation of power. So moving forward, you could imagine that our legislative branch, our executive branch, they'll all be different. And this way, not one branch of government has too much power. Now, we already had our own self-government. If you think about it, New England towns primarily relied on the town meetings. You had the Mayflower Compact, which was signed by the Pilgrims before they even got off the ship. And then in Virginia, you had the House of Burgesses, which was its own mini Congress in and of itself. And of course, Constitution is what we're going to have to create, some form of a Constitution, which states what the rights are and the government's powers and what the people's powers are. Now, Thomas Jefferson, his ideas on religious freedom were written in the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom, which comes into play in our thought about freedom of religion. And that stopped the connection that the Puritans had between the government and what church you belonged to. So now it didn't matter whether you went to church or didn't go to church, that was going to be considered in how we were going to create this new government. And then, of course, they had to look at suffrage, which is who's going to get to vote in all of this. And the past practice had been that it was predominantly men, it was predominantly white men, and it was predominantly white men who paid taxes, which meant that they had to own some kind of land. So that's what they're going to look at going forward in creating our new government.
Main idea 2, the Articles of Confederation laid the base for the first national government of the United States.
Yeah, so the Articles of Confederation actually called for a single branch of government with limited power, because the number one thing that our founding fathers wanted is they didn't want this new government to turn out like Parliament, the government of Great Britain. So they wanted to make sure it had limited power. Now, each state got one vote, and there's going to be no president, and there's going to be no national court system. All you're going to have is a Confederation Congress. Now, this had some strengths. Number one, it limited government powers, as I just mentioned. Congress could settle disputes among the states. Congress could also mint coins, borrow money, and negotiate treaties. Even though it had some strengths, though, it had some very noticeable weaknesses. Anytime Congress wanted to borrow money or borrow soldiers, it would have to ask the states, and the states could always say no. So when it came to the Articles of Confederation, the states really had the power. Some other weaknesses were the fact that obviously it didn't have a president, so it didn't have one leader who could help make decisions, and it didn't have a national court system. Each state is going to have its own court system, but there's not one national court system to kind of tie everything together and handle big issues. Now, even though it had those weaknesses, the Articles of Confederation were ratified in 1781 after Maryland was assured that the Western land would be made into new states instead of being used by the states to get bigger. So all of that land that the United States now had access to, thanks to the American Revolution, or thanks to winning the American Revolution, it was decided that all that land is going to be used to form new states and not just added on to states to make it bigger and give those states more power. And that brings us to the Northwest Territory.
So main idea 3, the Confederation Congress established the Northwest Territory. So Congress passed 2 laws to help settle the Northwest Territory. So they settled this, or the Land Ordinance of 1785, it raises money to pay off debts. So this divided the land into townships. So there were 36 lots with 670 acres each. 1 lot reserved for public school and 4 reserved for veterans. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787 was said the territory would be divided into smaller territories with a governor appointed by Congress. So when the territory reached a certain population of 60,000, it could write its own constitution, and then it could ask to join the Union. It also banned slavery in these territories, and they required public education.
Oh, I love that. I love that last part. Required public education. What's better than that?
Woohoo!
But I believe that's it for us today. Mrs. Kraft, anything else you want to add?
No, we did a great job. Thanks.
Fantastic job. It went super quick. Ms. Hoff, anything you want to add?
Nope, that's it. Have a great day, everyone.
A wonderful day, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.